And I believe we're on. Hello. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the weekly wrap with, today just Jordan. Because, it looks like Cody might be having some issues. That's okay. Just make sure everything's working. Yeah, okay, we're good. We are live. Alright. So, we have some exciting news this week. Even if we're down a host. That's okay, I've missed before, right? Fuck it. It's not a big deal. We'll probably see him here in a sec. Oh, that's good tea. Speaking of spilling tea, Pelosi tells colleagues Trump is villainous and that he wants to be impeached. At this point, like, what do you even fucking say, right? The House Speaker's message to Democrats came as vocal support for impeachment rose among lawmakers in the caucus. Okay. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, California, told her Democratic colleagues Thursday that President Trump wants to be impeached so that he can be vindicated by the Senate. Alright. Look, I know it's been like a long-standing joke that Pelosi's been nuts for a while. Right? Like, it's been a while. What does this even mean, Pelosi? Like, Donald Trump wants to be impeached so he can be vindicated by the Senate? Wait, that kind of... Am I the only one hearing that means she thinks that nothing would come out of an impeachment? And that he knows the same thing? Pelosi made the comments at a closed-door morning meeting. Two Democratic... Maybe I'm missing something. Two Democratic aides told NBC News, who also said that Pelosi called Trump's actions villainous. Oh, so villainous. Oh. Basically Al Capone. Al Capone 2. Electric Boogaloo, basically. The aide said that Pelosi was implying she will stick to her current plan to keep investigating the president, of course, and his administration without jumping to impeachment. Then what the fuck is the point of the... What's the point of the endless investigations if they're not leading to anything? Like, okay, at least, right? At the very least, if we were talking about investigations with the goal of something happening at the end, I would think it was stupid. But if it's... You guys are just investigating to investigate at this point. Like, leave... Just get rid of... Badoop. Hold on. Ignore the man behind the screen. I think Cody's here. Yeah, he'll be here in a second. Hey!
Hello.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
I went ahead and started the stream. I put in your new avatar since you didn't tell me what to change about it.
Nope. We can figure it out later, but hello, everybody.
You know it's beautiful.
Yes, my dog is super patriotic.
I wanted to talk about this on stream because I was pretty proud of it. We have like a Black Hawk up top. I even had like cool smoke effects because I got it with a PNG. Made America on the side, and now he's like, oh, I should have. Oh, you know what? I should put the stars on the top and bottom there too, of the overlay, just to finish, just like as a finishing touch to make sure he's surrounded in stars.
What's a she?
She.
God, don't misgender my dog.
Sorry. We have like an eagle poking out. We have Liberty poking out the side in the form of an eagle. Got Liberty Bell up there. She's eating a steak and loving it, as you can see by the heart.
Heck yeah, man! So super awesome.
I even disjointed her jaw so that she could be actually eating the steak instead of just having a steak slapped on her face.
She does love steak. Let's be honest.
I mean, fucking what dog doesn't, right?
Yeah, I've never met a dog that turned down steak before.
Right? You just have like a fucking prissy dog that's like, no, you won't catch me eating that plebeian food.
Dude, every time I have steak, I cut like a slice off
Mm-hmm.
of the raw steak and feed all my dogs a little piece of raw steak.
Aw.
And then I give a couple of my dogs a couple pieces of the gristle when I'm done.
I'm guessing they love that.
Oh, yeah. Every time I cut open a package of steak, they all are in the kitchen watching me.
That's cute. Well, all right. Do you at least reasonably like your avatar?
Yes, I think it's pretty awesome, man.
Okay. We'll work out the details later. Oh, I forgot to mention that the Black Hawk is landing on the Constitution.
That's right. Got to defend that thing, man.
That's right. I mean, the basis of everything is the Constitution. So of course our military is landing on the Constitution. It's metaphorical. It doesn't have to make sense, all right? Look at this image and tell me that part had to make sense.
It doesn't need to make sense. It's freedom, baby.
That's right. I managed to somehow make this without needing to put an oil reference anywhere. I'm proud of myself. All right. Well, I was just talking about Crazy Nancy.
Woo!
I'm not even a fucking conservative, and I'm calling her Crazy Nancy. Look at this shit. President Trump wants to be because this is where I was at. President Trump wants to be impeached so that he can be vindicated by the Senate. Just
right.
What the fuck?
He's begging us to do this.
I swear to God,
he loves
it's like
it.
She says words but doesn't think about the words. Because, like, okay, if his plan is to get impeached so that he can be vindicated by the Senate, what you're saying is your impeachments would do nothing.
Basically.
So he's daring you, and you're like, he's being mean to us. He's villainous. She's like, if you really dig down, it's almost like she's saying that he's bullying them. Because, like, really now, what the fuck?
Well, it's almost like she's saying, he's just asking for it.
Yeah, kind of. And then
his
later
skirt's
on,
a little too short, or he's wearing the wrong kind of hat or something. He just wants to be impeached.
Later on, it's like she's implying she'll stick to her current plan to keep investigating the president and his administration without jumping to impeachment, because God forbid these investigations have a fucking point.
Well, I wonder if... I think she's trying to string part of her base along with the impeachment thing. But I also think that she knows that if she starts impeachment proceedings, those in the middle will be like, yeah, this is stupid.
She fucking said it. Like, even... Because, I mean, yeah, obviously. The Democrats aren't stupid. They know that the huge section of their base is basically just default liberals that, you know, whatever the Democrats do, they're just going to be like, well, the Democrats are the good guys, so it doesn't really matter. But you've got to appeal to the crazies, because those are the ones that might actually go off the rails. But when it comes down to the actual results of an impeachment, she knows that nothing would happen. She's been saying that for over a year now. That an impeachment would go nowhere. There's no point.
Well, because an impeachment, it's not like you just prove something and then he's automatically impeached. It's a political process. Like, you have to get everybody to sign on to it, and currently they don't control enough of the government to just impeach him, which I think is a piss poor reason to impeach someone just because you don't like them.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're trying to spin the whole obstruction angle, and I don't think anybody's buying.
Well, I mean, the polls have pretty much shown this, where most of the country, when they heard, you know, Barr come out and say, because I think this is the real reason that the Democrats were so pissed off about the Barr thing, because Democrats know full well that there's a whole lot of people that are basically headline readers, not to be disrespectful, but they're headline readers that will see no collusion, no obstruction, and they will never look into it again. And I think that pisses Democrats the fuck off, because they really want to be able to keep sort of implying, it's like, well, I mean, technically speaking, did he obstruct the way we said he did initially? No. But if you'd like dig into these details over here that no one fucking cares about, nobody in Middle America cares anymore, in my opinion. I don't think anyone that has a normal life and a normal job and doesn't really care about politics gives two fucks past Barr coming out and saying with Mueller there was no collusion. There's nothing to impeach on. That's all they care about.
Right.
And they're moving on.
Well, I think they were super mad because there's a lot of people that aren't just headline readers, but they'll read the one story about it.
Right.
And the first one was him coming out and saying, there's nothing here.
Yes.
And so that's all they'll read.
Well, that's what I meant by...
And they won't go on further.
From the political perspective, that might as well be a headline reader, because there's people like me and you that read a ton of this stuff all the time and know a lot about what's going on and listen to videos and look at commentary and watch the news and do all this stuff to really find out what's going on. Whereas most people, like you were saying, and like that's sort of what I was talking about when I was saying headline readers, was like someone that looks at it one time and never goes back. Doesn't matter. I've already found out what I was looking for. Moving on with my life.
Yeah, I had this theory, I think I've talked about it before, where it's whoever tattles first is believed, generally. It's kind of that same theory, like whoever says it first, oh, it came out, there's nothing here. Okay, that's what people are going to believe. And then if someone's like, no, there's a bunch of stuff here, then it's like, okay, prove it. Mm-hmm. Well, they can't. They can't prove it. They can spin it however they want, and their base will 100% believe them, just like the Republican base will just believe Trump. Actually, I have a hard time calling it the Republican base. It's probably just the Trump base, let's be honest.
Well, I mean, any kind of accusation is basically an attack, and what you're attacking with is your credibility. But most people give other people like a baseline level of credibility, where if you come running out of a building screaming, "I was attacked," they're going to assume you were attacked, right?
Right.
If you're the first one that comes out, and if it was the other person, that let's say it was a false accusation and they didn't attack you, but they were the ones that came out screaming first, they'd probably believe them too, and then give you the side eye. So, yeah, I think you're right. There's a certain amount of that, but when it's a little bit different coming from politicians, just because the reason I was saying that your weapon is your credibility is because if you keep using it and people realize that you're using it as a cudgel and basically just tricking everyone into following along behind you, it pisses people off when they realize that you've been using them. So it only works. It's got a lifespan. It's got, in D&D terms, it's got like a per rest usage. You know.
Right.
You've got to give it some time.
It's got a cooldown period.
It does. It really does. You can't just keep doing the same shit over and over, but politicians have to, and it really, really puts a huge strain on their credibility. And I think that's sort of what the Democrats are running into right now, where they've been laying out accusation after accusation after accusation, and a lot of the American public is looking at this and going, yeah, but you guys keep lying.
And it's not just about this either. Mm-hmm. Like, I had a guy today, I was grocery shopping, wearing my MAGA hat.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're doing it.
Stopped me.
It's still May, isn't it?
Yep. He stopped me and he said, "Hey man, I like your hat." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And then we started talking. He's like, "Man, like I can't believe you're wearing it." Like he was shocked. And I forget where I was going with this, but
yeah, you've been getting some actually very positive results that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, mostly it's been 100% positive. I haven't had anybody like scream at me or yell at me. Like a couple like odd looks, but that was it. Like
that's almost disappointing.
I
was hoping for some fun stories.
That could just be me.
Yeah.
Well, I figure if I want those stories, I have to go into Portland. But this guy, he was just talking to me about like how crazy the Democrats are and how like he wants to wear a MAGA hat, but he doesn't want to deal with all the crap that he thinks he'll get for doing it, and how his wife doesn't want him doing it either. And he was an older guy, and he was like,
sure,
if I was in my 30s, I would 100% just wear it because someone comes up to me and tries to mess with me, I'd beat the shit out of them. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, like probably you could do that, you know? But it's just, I don't know if it's been an odd experience, but I don't want to get too far off topic talking about that. We can talk about that later if we want.
No, you're good.
But I don't know if it's hard. It's hard because you hear the media, like you said. You and I read a lot of the media and stuff, and listen to these politicians, and they're saying one thing, but then if you do go out and you talk to like people, you hear something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Like with that guy,
the
like
average person, I think, because I mean, I think you're very right about that. Because there's always the polls that give out 30% of the country is supporting Trump. Or actually, I think he recently actually crossed 50% on some polls. 46 was the low, wasn't it?
Yeah,
which was pretty.
Around 50.
I'm actually curious because I want to look this up real quick. Trump's approval rating.
Google search makes good show.
Shut up. All right.
No, I think he's gone up in the approval, but I don't think he's as high as other presidents have been at this time, and they got reelected. But nobody thought Trump would win last time anyway, either. So.
It's true. Yeah, it looks like if you aggregate all polls, at least from the site that I found off the top, it looks like he's never cracked 42%. So I guess 42% is the low. Yeah. But I mean, even with that, I don't think he's actually doing too bad. Because I feel like a lot of the times these polls tend to favor areas where they wouldn't necessarily approve of Trump. Like big cities. Because I have a hard time believing that they're going out into the middle of Missouri and door knocking to find out, the average person's opinion out there. So maybe they're using a different method for aggregation. I don't know.
Well, there's more people that are interested in responding that they don't like Trump than there are people who are interested in responding.
That's also true. That's also very true. The whole you see that because I've worked retail quite a bit. And with the ratings, you're absolutely right. Someone is much more likely to rate if they're unhappy than if they're happy, right?
100%.
Because if they're happy, well, they don't give a fuck. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can give you an anecdotal example of this too.
Sure.
My wife, she got contacted by Facebook because they want to do they want to work with her dog rescue and do something. Mm-hmm. Like a photo shoot and make a little video or something. I forget what it is, but they asked her if they said they had to do a background check and screen her and see if she is engaged in hate speech, which I thought was weird. And then she asked them, they asked her if she's married, and she said yes. And he's a Republican. Is that a problem? And I just thought it was weird that she felt like she had to ask that question. And the person at Facebook just laughed, thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so my wife had a big laugh about it, but it's still and my wife doesn't pay attention to politics. She's on social media a lot for her work, but she doesn't pay attention to politics hardly at all. She doesn't like to talk about politics. She's not really interested in it. She just hears the bits from the media. And so she doesn't like Trump, and she thinks she gets worried about, I guess, me being a Republican, which if that's her opinion, I kind of feel like that's a lot of people who are conservative or more Republican are worried also about saying they're Republican too. And I was that way a little bit, at least in our state.
She's apolitical and she fucking understands that being a Republican is a problem right now? Jesus.
Well, we live in hyper-progressive Oregon.
Also fair.
It might just be where we live. This being our social network or whatever.
Yeah, because I was about to say, most places in Texas, I mean, obviously Texas, but most places in Texas, being conservative, you're going to get some people that give you a bit of a side eye, but for the most part, neither side really gets too crazy because you have the cities that produce a lot of the hipster weirdos, but they're still exposed to a lot of conservatives. Like that was honestly what tempered me a little bit, because I was like borderline socialist back when I was like 2021. Like, and I don't mean like I'd like expanded healthcare. I mean like borderline, let's seize the fucking means of production.
Abolish private property.
Exactly. And honestly, the thing that brought me back was, even though I was talking to a guy that didn't really know a whole lot, he wasn't the smartest guy on the planet. Just being exposed to, there are other people that aren't total morons that have other ideas about how things can go, and it's not the end of the world. There's more than one way to run things that could work.
Right.
That sort of brought me back a little bit and brought me more towards the center, because I'm still left. Like, the reason I'm doing the things I'm doing is still left wing. I want change. I want to see things improve. Right. I don't respect a whole lot of the ideas of just keeping things the same because they used to work. I'd like to see them improve. I'd like to see them, enhanced over time.
Well, I don't even think conservatives believe that things should stay the same. I think they are more concerned about preserving things the way they are,
sure,
than people on the left. But I don't think they're opposed to change.
The reason I put it that way is because if you talk to someone that's like hyper conservative, because this is sort of like the dichotomy on the spectrum, right? Talk to someone that's hyper conservative, and what are they like? Typically, the line of thinking is, the reason I want to keep things this way, it's not because it's necessarily the best way. It's because we know it works. Like, it's a very don't fix it if it ain't broke attitude, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you have the liberals on the far other side that are like, I don't give a fuck what it does. We're trying to do this. I don't care if we have to rip up the whole system and put in a whole new system to make it fix this problem. Right? It's absolutely break it if it isn't broke.
Well, it's
they're both too far. Was what I'm saying. But
right, yeah,
the conservatives would lean more towards don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Well, yeah. Well, Ben Shapiro, he describes it like this: like you have a conservative, and a, I guess, progressive or a liberal walking through the woods, and they come across a wall. The progressive wants to tear the wall down immediately. Mm-hmm. Just, it's in the way, it's a problem, get rid of it. But the conservative wants to find out why it's there first, and then if there's any sort of use for it, and if not, then they can talk about tearing it down. And so they're more resistant to change. But I do think that the conservatives are fine with certain kind of changes. Just,
I think it's more along the lines of like where it really rubs is more like conservatives tend to think of it as, in my experience, right? In my experience, conservatives tend to react too slowly to problems, in my opinion, and then liberals tend to react too quickly. They tend to overreact. Liberals tend to overreact. Conservatives tend to underreact, right? And that's why both sides are necessary, because at some point, if you can get them in the same room and talk to the conservative and be like, dude, we need to fix this, he can be like, all right, hold on, but if we do fix this, we're going to fuck this up. And then it's like a conversation between the two sides. And hopefully you actually get to something reasonable. And that doesn't mean you fucking have the communists and the Nazis like come to a medium conclusion and now everybody's fucked. The fucking lay rational centrism meme where I dead ass had a professor that was describing centrism as like, you have this side that wants to kill all the babies and that side that doesn't want to kill any babies, and then the centrist comes in and says, let's only kill half the babies. I'm like, oh my god. Fucking
that's like me. Yeah, I've seen that meme before too.
It's so stupid. So dumb.
Well, it's counterproductive to their cause, because people in the center are going to be like, fine, then I'll just go over here with these guys, because they don't want to kill babies. I know that.
Well, I think that's
like nobody wants to kill babiys. Well, I don't know. People on the far left might want to kill babies. Have you seen the
pro-abortion people? Yeah, they absolutely They absolutely want to. And I'm not saying, but for anyone listening, I'm not talking pro-choice. If you're pro-choice, like I'm with you. I'm pro-choice too. Like, don't misunderstand me. When I'm saying pro-abortion, I mean someone that wants you to have it, like, specifically will encourage you if you're pregnant or you're thinking about having a kid, they're going to be like, kill the baby, kill that baby, kill that baby, kill it.
Do it for
Stomp it. Curb stomp that fucking fetus.
Womanhood. Yeah, there's now a third party in the debate. There's pro-choice, pro-life, and pro-abortion.
Yeah.
It's like, God, and the pro-abortion people are pushing more people into the pro-life camp.
Yeah,
as far as I can tell.
It's interesting because honestly, back in the early 2000s, it kind of felt like the abortion debate was over. Like, it kind of felt like it was over with Roe v. Wade, where it was just like, the conservatives weren't happy, but as long as they were able to just fuck with abortion clinics endlessly until it was basically banned, small victories, right?
That's right. And you gotta eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Right, small victories. And the other side was happy because they basically had abortion codified as a right. So there was like an equilibrium. But ever since the hardcore pro-abortion people have gotten in the debate, and people are starting to, now that, because pro-abortion people are very often conflated with pro-choice. It is not the same position. It is not the same position. But because they're conflated, it pushes a lot of people that were just sort of, again, default liberal, pro-choice, into, well, I'm not with those guys. Fuck no. I am not with the fucking fetus curb stompers. I'll go be pro-life, I guess. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's... Because I've talked about this before, I was more pro-choice. And part of me still is, though, I don't know, it's just a complex question, and there's no easy answer.
I pretty much, and this is one of the few areas where I'm actually as left as Tim Pool, because Tim Pool is actually a bit to the left of me in some areas. I'm actually further than he is in some. But regardless, I actually pretty much agree with his, as far as why I'm for it. It's very much I actually had a complicated thought experiment is that I was trying to express to Nico last time, but it didn't come out very well because I wasn't expecting to need to break it out. But anyway, it was very much like a begrudging pro-choice, where it's like, look, I understand the necessity. The medical procedure needs to be available. We can't ban it. But that doesn't mean I like abortions, because I don't like abortions. To me, the conservatives aren't wrong to point out that if you just didn't touch the fetus, it would be a person in 9 months, so why is it not a person 9 months prior? Right.
There's merit to the argument.
Yeah, it's not that they're wrong they're not necessarily wrong that it's murder, it's just, they're kind of, you really have to weigh everyone's responsibilities and how much responsibility she has and where the lines of rights are drawn. It's a complicated question. It's a series of interacting rights where you really have to go, okay, where is she now responsible? And
well, it's also, when does responsibility actually start?
Right. That is honestly
because
the main thing.
I don't think the responsibility actually starts after she's pregnant. I think the responsibility starts before you have sex.
Well, I mean, yes, honestly. But at the same time,
and I know, you can be the most responsible person and still get pregnant on accident.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's, and that's why I'm I'm opposed to abortion as birth control.
Yes.
Necessarily.
I really don't like this birth control, but I don't know how to restrict that aspect of it without restricting legitimate uses.
Yeah, and I understand the whole incest and rape exemptions.
I honestly don't.
Fine with that.
I honestly don't understand.
Some point.
From the pro-life perspective, I'm not sure I fully understand the rape and incest exemptions. I'm not sure how we ended up talking about Alabama's abortion thing, but I mean, it's still going on, so it's relevant. But
yeah, we talked about it last week, but we just kind of eventually moved on.
Because
it's such a big topic. We're we've kind of beat this to death, but it's still interesting. People are still talking about it. I just didn't want to make it a big topic this week.
I find it interesting because pretty much on any side. This is actually one of my friends on Facebook that put it the most succinctly. If your opinion on abortion can be boiled down into 2 sentences or less, your opinion on abortion is probably too simplistic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue. It really is. There's a lot of things going on there, like from a philosophical perspective, from a logical perspective, from a moral perspective. There's a lot of things going on, and if you're not willing to go through it, and your entire answer is, my body, my choice, I don't know what to tell you. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I've argued via Facebook, though I try to avoid that. But I've argued with a couple friends who are like, they try to frame the argument as straight white men want to control women's bodies. I'm like, no, like, you just don't understand the pro-life position.
Actually, there's kind of I found a really good counterpoint on that, and it's basically, if you go look at the polling data, the primary voting bloc is women. In Alabama, it's no different. These men that everyone's talking about.
That's the point I made.
Yeah, the men that everyone are talking about, they were put into place by women. They are maintained by women. If women don't like the bill, they can vote them out and put in someone that will. They can vote in a woman. Feel free.
They're half the population.
And it's not even. We're not even talking per population. We're talking about like individual percentile chance to vote. If you take a random woman and a random man, the odds are, with almost like two. It's almost like a third, like 30% more likely that the woman's going to vote.
Right.
It's a big difference. Women are the primary voting demo. So to say that it's men legislating women's bodies is fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, I just thought that was a silly argument.
Yeah, it always has been. Like, if you're not a man, you don't get to fucking, because they're trying to make it about their bodies, but the truth is, the question isn't whether or not, at what point women would get to have control of their own body. The point is, at what point does the child get to be called a person? Right? Like, when does that happen?
Right.
In other words, when does
begin?
Responsibility begin? Because I actually agree with the conservative assessment of conception. I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but it really does come down to, like I was trying to express to Nico last time, the idea of how much responsibility you have up front, right? To house something that you may or may not have done on purpose. Because I don't think it's unfair I don't think it's unreasonable for someone to take Plan B the day after, right? To prevent
absolutely not.
To prevent the pregnancy in the first place. Totally reasonable. If you think something happened and you want to go get it checked out after 2 weeks, and you find out you're pregnant, at that point, if you're just like, I can't do this, fair enough. But I think most people agree around the 3-month mark is, like, that's a fair cutoff point where I think most people could go, all right, past this point, like, you should...
It's like 12 weeks.
Yeah. Like, which is obviously longer than the Georgia bill. But that's sort of, like, the way I think of it as being cut off, but I could be persuaded further or shorter. I don't know. Again, it's a complicated issue. And I don't want to beat on it too long, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I understand. Well, there's also, so I'm trying to think, like, why would you make an exemption for rape and incest? Because it is a life in there. If you consider it a life, then you can't make that exemption. But, like, I think most people feel like that's an okay exemption to make because, well, in the case of, I think most cases of incest are probably started out as some form of rape.
Well, sure, but the question then becomes, like, because anytime I hear that, I'm just like, why are you not pro-choice? Because you've already conceded the most important conceit of the pro-choice argument, that it's not the context of the baby, that it's the context of the parents that matters.
Right, yeah.
Like, why is it the baby's problem that his dad is a dirtbag? Like, how is that his fault? How is it the baby's fault?
Well, I think because I'd be okay, like you said, I'd be okay with Plan B and, like, 2 weeks out, you find out that you're pregnant and then you get it taken care of. You get an abortion at that point.
Sure.
Because I'm not like the way I kind of rationalize it is, well, if a woman has a miscarriage, like, again, she's not deciding. necessarily to do
right.
that.
I don't
so
think.
I guess there's a difference there, but
right.
Even like women who have miscarriages that early still feel a sense of loss.
Sure.
Like they've lost a child. And if you know, like just about everybody, all the women I know have had a miscarriage at some point. Like my grandma, my mom, and a few others.
Sure.
It's not like, oh, it's just the egg didn't implant, no big deal. Like women are tough when it comes to that, and they carry on because that's what you got to do. But man, like that sense of like loss, like they already felt the connection, and even before the baby's like in there moving or anything, it's like, especially if they're trying to have a baby, it's different. So for me, it's like, like going through all that and like hearing those stories and stuff like that. It's like, why would anybody consider this like just getting a mole removed or something? It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think
like, if it were, like, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
I think there's something worth remembering, because whenever we talk about women's issues, there's sort of like a default assumption for some reason that the women involved are like honest actors. It's worth remembering that there's a section of the population, yes, even the female population, that are psychopathic and don't give two fucks.
Well, like, there's some of them. There's some people that are just hyper rational, and so they always try to look at like what's the most logical thing to do.
Right.
Well,
the moral aspect doesn't come in at all.
Yeah, if you simply use logic, you can logic yourself into just about doing anything.
It's true. I mean, you could say the same thing about morals, but that's why you try and like mix the different aspects of an argument into the final opinion, right? Because technically, if you just used emotion, you could talk yourself into anything. If you just use logic, you can talk yourself into anything, right? If you just use any aspect of any type of argument and just solely focus on that, you could pretty much use it to talk yourself into just about anything. But when you start mixing it around other things and go, okay, does this make moral sense? Does this make logical sense? Does this make like in like a wider sense, a societal sense? Does it make sense overall? Right? Suddenly, a lot of avenues start cutting off when you start going, okay, that doesn't work. There's a lot of things that sort of just naturally shut themselves down when you have a more rounded view of things. In my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody who's... It's like, have you ever read or learned about Aristotle's Ethics?
Oh, I think we have IT News. That was the guy you were telling me about, right?
Yeah.
He's in the chat.
Oh, hey man, how's it going? Restart the stream.
Okay, might have to...
We've been censored.
We've been censored. Bitches. Alright, I think Are we back? Okay, live stream offline. Fucking stream complete. God damn it. We should be live? Why are we not? Hold on.